God bless everybody. Today is March 1st, 2018. My name is Beverly, and I want to share some warnings to Black people. And I want you to know there's no salvation in your color. There's no salvation in your color, and there's no condemnation of any man in his color. So I also had a couple of dreams that I want to share from the Lord. My hope is that there will be somebody who is teetering with, considering, or otherwise caught up in any movements of that have to do with blackness or education of blackness, or the so-called revelation of Black history, Black greatness, all of those things. The Hebrew roots movements, any Hebrew Israelite stuff, anything that has to do with those onks, I think that's what they're called. The cross looks like a cross, except for the top of it is a little loop. Anything that has to do with all that Egyptology, the black man is God, white people are the devil, any of those things. Yeah, Edom, any of those things. If any of that stuff sounds familiar to you, or someone's trying to educate you in those things, then I'm making this known unto you from the Lord, because He cares about you, and there's a lot of people who will just perish for the lack of knowledge, but He doesn't want you to be one of them if you will hear what the Spirit is saying. So I pray you give ear to what I'm saying and give it its due consideration and take it to the Lord in prayer so that He can confirm to you the truth of the things that I'm telling you. So a couple of weeks ago, a movie came out called, I think it's called Black Panther. Let me just make sure. I think it's just called Black Panther. I have a warning about that movie. I pray the Lord be with me to help me express this that He would have me say. That movie came out on the 16th of last month. I didn't know about the movie. I think I heard that they were making a movie based on a black superhero sometime, but I didn't know anything that it was going to be about. So a couple weeks ago, two people that I knew who are African American people, they had bought some advance tickets and were planning to go to this movie, and they were, I guess, kind of hyped up about it. So I didn't know until they got back that that's the movie that they went to go see on the opening night. And when they came back, they were just, talking about, this was such a great movie. And then they were both planning on seeing it again. And one already did go see it again, like the next day or something. And then I talked to a relative of mine Sunday. And he was on his way to go see the movie and told me that he was going to go see it in a theater that had been bought out, that he was going to see it with a group that had purchased every seat in the theater to take young black kids to see the movie, because they felt it was positive imagery and that this would be good for black society in helping to cure them of social ills. And I asked him if he thought it was a good thing, and he said basically what I just said. And then so he in turn asked me what I thought about it. And I told him this. I said, it's going to prove to be divisive, and it is it's going to prove to be divisive, and it really is building self-worth based on pride in your color and where you come from rather than in who you are. And I cited Martin Luther King to this person, not because, I believe Martin Luther King was who he said he was, but just because I know that this person, I don't hardly know any black people, maybe one that I've ever talked to that thinks that Martin Luther King is anything other than a sainted hero, because that's how he's portrayed to black people from the time they're little. And you will really get jumped on if you disagree with that. I mean, you will get called all kinds of, Uncle Toms and other derogatory terms by black people if you dare disagree with that. Anyway, sorry if I seem distracted. There's a lot going on outside this room. So I'm going to try to stay focused. Lord, be with me. Okay, to the point. So I told him that this movie would prove to be divisive, and I cited Martin Luther King, because I knew that this person, we could find a common ground for me to express to him what I was trying to say if I started there. And I said, of all the things that I would take from what Martin Luther King was saying, for me, the most valid takeaway that I would have from him was the statement that he made that he wanted to be able to say in this country that that his 4 little children would be judged based on the content of their character and not on the color of their skin. So that when you try to build the self-esteem of a people based upon their identification with other human beings, and the basis is their skin color, you're just going to start the cycle of racism all over again with a new oppressor. Sorry, a lot going on outside this room. With a new oppressor, you'll just end up with a bunch of, proud people with their chest stuck out, thinking that they're something and more than other people, on a basis other than who they are on the inside. The values that they not only espouse that they believe in, but the ones that they are willing to live and die for. That is a good human being. And as far as trying to impart dignity to them based on that, for me, it is a mistake to build your sense of dignity and self-worth on anything other than who you are in Christ. And the fact that you were created in the image of God. And God being a spirit, and as he said, warning the children of Israel, you saw no similitude when I came down and spoke to you on the mountain. He was saying that there was no imagery. I did not present myself to you in any physical form. So therefore, don't worship anything that you can see or imagine in the earth, as far as a physical focus of what to worship. Not a bird, not a star, not a mountain, no human being, no animal, nothing. So nothing of what we look like can be the basis of us deriving our dignity from being made in the image and likeness of God. That's in here. That's what you want to develop. And that's the way you want to look like your Father. Because he didn't show us himself. No one has ever looked upon his face and lived. Only his Son, Jesus, has seen him. Jesus said that. He said, no, I'm the only one who's seen the Father. So I told them that something that would be accomplished in young people seeing that movie, hoping that they would be able to identify with it in a positive way, does not meet the end game that Martin Luther King said that he had, which was that people would be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. This is still people being judged by the color of their skin. So he agreed with that. And he said, well, still, this is a step in the right direction. And it won't go anywhere. And what it actually is going to do is what it was designed to do. And that is to have black people puff their chest out and for them to do what white people did. For them to do what the Nazis did, which was to fill them full of pride based on their race. And that mentality led to them being able to commit all kinds of atrocities against people who did not look like them. Because if I'm great, that means you're not. And that's just the way that's going to go. That's just the way, that's what pride is. That's what pride does. The Bible condemns pride from cover to cover. And it exalts humility. And the equality and dignity of all people. And for us to really see what we have in common with each other. And that is that we're all of one flesh. All the children of one man and one woman, created by the same Creator. And our enemy is not, nor has ever been, one another. But like the Bible says, we battle against principalities and spiritual wickedness. We're battling the kingdom of darkness, which uses other human beings. But we're never to see that other human being as our ultimate enemy. So, anyway, specifically warning you about this dream. This dream, not this dream, the movie Black Panther. It is designed by Hollywood, which nothing holy comes out of Hollywood. Nothing holy comes out of Hollywood. Everything that comes out of Hollywood has an agenda. And especially these days, the agenda is to, the agenda of Hollywood is preparing people to receive the mark of the beast. That's the agenda of the world. The agenda of the kingdom of heaven is preparing us to meet our God. So there's nothing that's going to come out of Hollywood that will not be working for the devil. There's also something else. I just pulled up the image of, I guess, the poster for this movie. And it also is in that blue color, that eerie, icy, sort of a blue color. That color is the Antichrist color. And the devil is really busy right now. The power just went out. There could not be more distractions around me right now. But I'm just going to keep going, and I pray that you bear with me, my Lord. So this blue color that you see, if you pull this, if you pull like the poster or trailer or whatever for this movie up, that eerie blue color, God's been showing me this color. That it's the Antichrist color. And also, I looked up and saw that the color of Freemasonry is blue. So you will see this color as the theme of the beast. Also other dreams. That swirl that was projected in the sky over wherever CERN was, it was also this blue color. And I didn't know anything about that swirl because I don't watch the news. But I dreamed it. I dreamed a swirl, and it was this icy blue color. I think that was the first time I saw that color, and since then God has been showing it to me. You'll see it's the color. If you look, you'll see this color is popping up everywhere. All the newscasts use this color. And it'll be more seen what the purpose of it is. It's the color on Alexa and all that. Anyway, so now that I can't see to read this dream, I'm going to have to do the next best thing. I hope you can see me. This is crazy. But I'm going to keep making this video because I've been trying to make this video all day. And I'm not stopping. Okay, Black Panther. Listen to me. This movie is part of an agenda to bring about race riots, to prime black people up and make them full of pride. The movie came out February 16th, 2018. And on February 18th, 2017, 1 year ago, at 1:44 a.m. on a Saturday, I woke up with this. It was a vision that I had in prayer. So I guess I was awake praying. And this is what the vision was. It was Black people and how they are going to be blinded. Now, this was a year ago. How they were going to be blinded by racism and hate and pride. There will be no reasoning with them. This sort of Black person is godless. This is the exact quote, I'm reading it right off the paper that it was written on. That same Black Panther spirit. And that is the name of this movie, Black Panther. It says that same Black Panther spirit. Then I saw a scene of people slinging people around, fighting. Then I wrote, they are being used and are absolutely going to fall for it. There is no way in the world that this is not going to happen. It is absolutely going to happen. Black people are going to be filled with pride. And they are going to be sucked into this. Of course, there will be people who aren't. Because salvation is not based on your skin color, and neither is damnation. But there's a bait that is best at catching any fish. Based on the common experiences that a lot of Black people have had in America and maybe other places in the world, this deception is tailor-made for them. Lord help me. So that's my warning to you about this movie. This is what this movie is designed to do. It is designed to blind you, to fill you full of pride, and make you a hateful racist. And I know it just seems like, all it's doing is promoting positive images of Black people. But when you base who you are on the outside of your body, that's nothing but pride. A humble character that imitates our Creator is far more to be desired. Anything else will lead to division, just like it did with white people. All right. So I found that today. And I just thought it was so ironic that it even named this movie. And there is such a hype around this movie. Just by accident, also today, while I was looking up something else, a video came on. I guess this is a trending topic, about how people were going to African shops and getting African clothing and scarves that they could wear to this, to the premiere of this movie, or to the showing, or whatever they would go to. I'm sorry that it's so dark, but I really didn't realize how badly the devil doesn't want this said. So I'm going to keep going and get to the point. So this was on, the next dream was on February 15th. February 15th of this year. So I was waking up and a very strong dream came upon me and impressed on me greatly. It was of me seeming to be in the living room on the couch, and somehow minority men were present and represented. to see what they would do. It was like they were presented front and center before God and given their opportunity. They were prominent and unhindered. All kinds of minorities, which the word minority is really turned wrong side up, because Black people, Indians, Asians, all of those are not the minority. 84% and climbing of the world is made up of so-called minorities. And so-called white people are only 16% of the world's population and declining. So there were all kinds of quote-unquote minorities. I woke up and considered the strong impression. Then I began to think this: we have been shown the disgusting deeds of those who regarded not the dignity of people in imperialism and exploitation, and in the raping of kindreds, nations, and peoples in a systematic way, as though they had been granted the privilege by the superiority of birth, needing not to consider, to entertain the foulness of these atrocities. But all they participated in the privilege. Now consider that the one and only true God, the Almighty, will prove that all men are under sin, that there is no virtue granted a man owing to his race or ethnic persuasion. They are all evil. The European did not oppress because he was a white man. He oppressed because he was man. The dignity of all men shall be acknowledged, and the first shall be last, and the last shall be first, and prove that none of mankind possesses any virtue by birth or circumstances of wealth or status. No claims to superior intellect, beauty, or gifts of talents or nature are owed to the nature of your or any man's skin or gender. You shall prove to be equally guilty before the Lord. Will you consider yourself now and in the times to come how you have and will become one with the system that oppresses, the system that crushes in pieces souls and the dignity of God's creation? Or will you simply enjoy the privilege and ignore the dignity of the living soul? Will you oppress? I'm talking to minorities. Will you, now that the tables are turning, and they shall turn, because the first will be last, and the last will be first. There's another dream, a video that I made that I'll try and link in the description. It was about how all traces of the Western world were gone. Everything was different. It was as though the world were Islamic, and you could almost choke on the dust of the desert. The Western world will be gone. It will fall. It'll fall with the collapse of the capital of the Western world, which is the United States of America. And when that happens, the dominance of the European will cease. And it can't be stopped, and it won't be stopped. And there's no amount of ammo or prepping that will stop it. But my question is, when that happens, minorities, and you know all the stories, what's happened to your people, to your countries, and to your nations, and the things that happen to them based just on the color of their skin, will you turn around and do those things to other people? When the shoe is on the other foot, will you ignore privileges that are handed to you and choose like Moses did? He made a conscious choice to go and suffer with God's people rather to enjoy sin for a season and just be among the Egyptians. He considered the oppression of his brothers, the Hebrews, when he could have just lived in the Egyptian world. And it's going to be deeper than just minorities against white people. It'll just start that way. But in the end, what it's all going to shake down to, race riots and racial tensions are just being used to break down the old order. But in the end, it won't be, merely race against race. It'll be Christians against worshipers of the beast. When you see atrocities begin to happen, will you look deeper? Will you look into the content of these people's character? Or will you just say, well, this is the way it is. This is the way it's always been. The system benefits me. I won't question it. I wrote, a few will find the narrow way and walk in it and avoid destruction. God longs to see justice coming forth from his creation. And the only thing this is going to serve to prove is that all men are sinful. The love of money is the root of all evil. Rebellion against God is what's wrong with man. And there won't be anything but false peace without a returning to God's ways. It'll look like peace because no one will be able to speak in opposition to it. Dissension will be crushed. Opposing opinions will be stifled and swiftly dealt with. And people will be afraid to speak out against anything that's wrong. I talked to someone the other day who was demoted on their job as a way to humiliate them for talking about the things that were going on at the job, which everyone knew. I've seen those sorts of things in my own line of work, where everything is a mess and a disaster. But they expect everybody to put on a happy face and act like nothing's wrong when the place is falling apart at the seams. Anyway, what God is looking for is who will do justice. Will there always be oppression? I want to read a scripture. Okay. This is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 5. This is God and his creation. Now I will sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved, touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. He fenced it, and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem, and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes? And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold, oppression, for righteousness, but behold, a cry. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place that they may place along, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In mine ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitants. And it goes on and on. Verse 13, therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself, and opened her mouth without measure. And their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp. And he that rejoiceth shall descend into it, that is, into hell. The mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God, that is holy, shall be sanctified in righteousness. Okay. So what is that saying? Christian nations are the ones that spread oppression throughout the earth. When they had the Bible, when they had a chance to do justice, they allowed atrocities. They had one standard of judgment for some people and another standard of judgment for themselves. One standard of living for themselves and another standard of living for other people. There was racism, horrible racism. And it went on and on and on and on. And now God is rising up to judge. The children of your slaves are going to rise up against you. It will happen. It will be. It won't be stopped. Because there was no judgment in the land. Because it was okay with so many of you that there was no fairness as long as you benefited from the system. And you couldn't see any guilt in yourself. But God saw it. And now He's allowing. He's taking the hedge away from America. And then on top of all of the oppression and the wickedness that was going on in America, all the unfairness, all the bribes and racism, you all know it exists. On top of all of that, then they became altogether godless. You marry men to men and even encourage little children in this. You legalize grown perverts going into bathrooms with little children. You forgot God and now He's forgotten you. And it won't be stopped. It will not be stopped. It will not be stopped. Judgment is coming to America. You can't pray it away because it's time. It's time for this to happen. So, a few scriptures. This is what Exodus chapter 12, verses 48 and 49 say. When a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover of the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. 49. One law shall be to him that is home born, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. I read that because the injustice that went on all over the world, every place that European imperialistic powers went, they perpetuated injustice and inequity. And now it's going to come back and ultimately bite all of us. Because it's led to the validation of all of this anger and all of these uprisings that are going to come. And these oppressed people, in their reaching out for freedom and in their reaching out for justice and judgment, they're not reaching to God. They're reaching to a false hand that's being offered to them. The hand of the one who brings false peace, which is the Antichrist. And it's going to be that. Just watch that eerie blue color, that eerie blue light. It's the same light that God told me that Donald Trump walks in. Okay. Like I said, Europeans did not oppress everywhere they went because they were white. It's because they were people. And what God is going to show, which was in this second dream, is that it doesn't matter who it was. It wouldn't matter what color the outside of their skin was. It's the heart of man that is fallen. So there's no need in you being angry or wanting to fight white people. Because if they raise the black man up, he will do it. If they raise the Indian up and let him be the tool of Satan, he will do it. This is what Paul said in Romans. This is Romans chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 9. What then? Are we better than they? No, in no wise. For we have before proved, both Jews and Gentiles, that they are all under sin. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that understandeth, there is none that seeketh after God. They are all gone out of the way. They are altogether become unprofitable. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Their throat is an open sepulchre. Their tongues, with their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace have they not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God. Okay. This is this is James chapter 1. I'm going to start reading at verse 21. Wherefore, lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass, which is a mirror. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he, being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. I'm reading this because there is no way you're going to live in sin and go to heaven. If any man, verse 26, if any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is in vain. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. Back to Romans chapter 3, verse 20. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin. But now the righteousness of God without the law is manifest, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ, unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. Upon all them that believe, there is no difference. No black, no white, no Jew, no Greek, no nothing. All. And the only righteousness that we can partake in is in having faith in Jesus Christ, which is why I just read that from James. Because faith in Jesus Christ is more than just hearing and saying you believe the word. He says, if any man be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. I've told you before that the Hebrew Israelites are going to worship Obama because he's black. Because they're going to fall altogether away from Jesus. And they're doing it right now. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is in vain. All of you cussing Christians, when you get mad and you will cuss a person with every 4-letter word you can think of, your religion is in vain. Your name is not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. If it was ever written in there, it is now blotted out. And except you repent, you shall all likewise perish. Not say I'm sorry and keep doing it, but overcome. Stop and overcome. John 14:21. He that hath my commandments and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me. And he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and I will manifest myself to him. He that hath my commandments and keepeth them. Not you merely hearing the word and saying that you believe it. And for you who don't see anything wrong with that movie, and think it was such a good movie and it's positive and it made you feel good, let me tell you, there's an agenda that will assert itself at the proper time. The seeds having been placed into the hearts of those people who go and receive that movie. Because one thing the devil is, he's described in Genesis as the most subtle beast of the field. And I want to read to you a definition of subtle. So delicate or precise as to be difficult to analyze or describe. Delicately complex and understated. Making use of clever and indirect methods to achieve something. The word subtle is subtle. So to make the definition of that word more obvious, let's use its opposite, obvious. So you can compare that back to subtle. Everything I'm going to read is what subtle is not. Easily perceived or understood, clear, self-evident, apparent, clear, plain, evident, manifest, pronounced, transparent, prominent, noticeable, unmissable. So that is what the devil is not. He's subtle. And what is the fruit that's going to come forth from that movie is going to be pride and racism and blindness of heart. And the Black Panther spirit. Black power. You've heard white people say, well, what's wrong? We want to have white pride and we want to have white power. You can obviously see what's wrong with that. It is nothing but dressed up hatred. It is nothing but division. And it won't be any different just because it's you. But it will look different to you because it's you. It's a snare, and it's going to lead to the riots. Because right after I saw that, I saw a scene of people slinging people around and fighting. And that there was no way black people were not going to fall for it. They're falling for it. They're falling for it. And I'm weary of trying to tell them. So, I had a dream, and I made a video about it, which I will put in the description box. This was the first dream I had about black people. And it said, and I've said this many times, I voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and in 2012, and I did it because he was black. Perhaps there was a bit of it because he was a Democrat. But it was because he was black by and large. And in that dream, God was angry with black people for their love of Barack Obama and how they ignored how godless he was. And they ignored all of his policies, which went against their own values as Christians. And just because he was black, everything he was doing was okay. It was unquestioned. He's their hero, and only because he's black. And God was angry about this. If we're going to be his children, we have to do what he does. And he judges a man based on who he is inside. Man looks on the outer appearance. but God looks on the heart. I don't know if I read that. This is in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, that's his face, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. Like I said, I don't know if I read that, but it's worth reading. And in that dream where God was saying that he was angry at black people about their love of Barack Obama, I heard this said like 3 times. The next Soweto, the next Soweto, the next Soweto. And I didn't know what Soweto was. So I looked it up. And Soweto started out as a protest in South Africa during the days of apartheid. And it turned into an uprising. That's what it's called, the Soweto uprising. It turned into a bloody bloodbath of disastrous race relations. And both sides of this, to this day, only see their own side. Still, the white Africans defend what happened, while at the same time acknowledging that it was wrong. A man's way always seems right in his own eyes. But God sees the way things truly are. And you know what he sees? They're all guilty. They're all guilty of what they're guilty of. So this was in 1976. And it's hard to tell what really happened, but what is known is that there was a violent protests that were met with merciless force by the government. And I want you to know the devil likes to see our blood in the streets. And he doesn't care what color you are. Don't fall for the race baiting. Don't see yourself as an outward appearance. Only dress up your heart. Don't circumcise the flesh of your foreskin. Circumcise your heart, like the Lord said. Prepare your heart to meet the Lord. Cleanse your heart. Wash it in the Word. Another way of looking at your heart is your mind. Renew your mind. Be a doer of the Word. No person who's not a doer of the Word understands the Word. You understand the Word through living it. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And you understand the deeper things of God and what he really wants from man. He wants to see equity. I hate that word equity because it's being used in a perverted way right now. But he wants to see justice go forth. He wants to see justice go forth. He wants to see his children doing what is right and not oppressing. Now, I discussed this last thing that I'm going to say with a friend of mine. And all he had to say was interesting. And he's usually the person that I bounce these things off of, because I really don't have anyone who is really seriously considering and knowing that this is the end of the world. So, in Revelation chapter 6, it talks about what is known as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The first one being a rider on a white horse. And he that sat on him, this is Revelation chapter 6, verse 2, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And there was going to be, at the end of time, a one world government. And so all the world had to be gathered together under this one world government. And I suggest to you that Satan used a kernel of European people, because the masses of the European people were serfs and impoverished. But he used a select, elite few of them to go forth and to be an imperial force throughout the world. And no place has been as devastated as Africa by this. Australia, North America was exploited. India, China, Indonesia, everywhere. Hawaii, the Caribbean islands, you name it. By the Europeans, the Spaniards, the English. Everyone was in on it. The French. Everyone was gathering up territories in the other parts of the world. And through their money and the goods that they could buy and trade with their money, they went and took the best of the lands of those people and enslaved the people to capitalism and their currencies. And then when they got finished, they would set up governments, native governments, that were indebted to and bought out by the European central banks. And so the devil used a group of European people to go and do this. I also had a dream in a video where Obama said, "I changed the world, I changed the world." And he was full of rage, and he hated white people, and he wanted to destroy the Western world, and he wanted to destroy the imperialistic system that he felt had destroyed his people. And Obama is a Kenyan, and he also has ties to Indonesia, which I had a dream about Indonesia and about it being decimated, the way of life of the people there being decimated by the introduction of debt and currency. So Satan, through the invention known as currency, money, fiat money, printed money, the Lord told me that money was created to make sure they would always have slaves. It was created and given a value, a perceived value, that people would always chase it. And by that, they would always have slaves. And they use it to steal the wealth of the nations. But those peoples, those Europeans, they were just a tool of the devil. And like the devil always does, when he's done with a person, he just drops you and watches you burn. And that's what's going to happen. So the rider that sat on the white horse, and he had a bow, he is Antichrist. And a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And I considered with my friend, if that white horse could be the European nations that went out and touched every part of the globe to bring them into this system, to conquer all the nations and then turn them over to the beast. So there will be riots, race riots. They are promised. And we'll find out that the black man is no better than the white man. And that there's no virtue in a man because of the color of his skin. And with that, I'm done. God bless.